Good morning, boys and girls. I'm glad you're back with us again this morning. Remember, we've been studying from our children's Bible, and the Bible has two main parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. And we've been reading and studying about the Old Testament. And we've been in Genesis, but now we're moving into Exodus. And Exodus was a time that the Israelites are going to be moving out of Egypt. So we're going to go back and review just a little bit about who we studied last week. We talked about baby Moses last week. Will you remember that? And his mother put him in a basket and put him in the water. And why did she do that? That's right, because the old Pharaoh was going to kill all the Hebrew baby boys because he thought there were too many Israelites or Hebrews in Egypt, and he was afraid that they were going to take over. And so he said, we're going to kill all the baby boys. Well, that was a terrible thing. So his mother, Jochebed, put him in the river, and his sister watched to see where he would go. And who found him? That's right. The princess found him, the king's daughter. She found him and she felt sorry for him because he was crying. And she said, oh, I want to keep him. So her daddy let her keep him, even though he was a Hebrew baby. So Jochebed took care of him until he got bigger, and then he went back to live in the palace, remember, with the princess. And he grew up there, and he grew up like an Egyptian. They treated him like he was Egyptian, but he wasn't, was he? No, he was a Hebrew. He was an Israelite, and he knew that. And so one day he went out and he was watching the Israelite people working. And let's read the story now and see what happens while he's watching them work. Okay, this says Moses grew up in the palace of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. He grew to be a strong young man. But Moses did not like the way that Pharaoh was treating his people. He saw Hebrew slaves being beaten and bullied every day. So one day Moses saw one getting beaten, and he went out there and he killed the man. He killed the Egyptian, and he hit him, and he didn't know. He thought nobody saw him. But the next day, some more were out there fighting, and he went out to stop them. And they said, what are you going to do, kill us like you did that other guy? He didn't know that they knew. So he knew he had to leave. He had to get away from those people because he knew he was in trouble. So he left and went to another land. And there he got married, and he had a family. And he stayed there, and he was a shepherd. Now, what did we learn about shepherds? That's right, they take care of sheep. So he was taking care of the sheep, and he was out one day taking care of the sheep. And he saw something very, very strange. He saw something burning. Now, when something burns, it goes completely away, doesn't it? I brought my little pan today, and I'm going to show you what happens when something burns, okay? So I'm going to take this paper, and I bet you already know, but let's see if we can see what's going to happen when I light the paper. Let's see what happens to this. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger. But the paper's going away, isn't it? It's going away. Okay, here it goes, turning black. Oh, it's disappearing, isn't it? And it's going to burn completely up, and it's going to go away. And that's what we know about fire. That's what fire does, doesn't it? It goes away. Now I've got a smoky. So the paper went completely away because the fire burned it up. Now, when Moses was out there looking around, he saw a fire burning, but it wasn't going away. It was a bush, and it was on fire. Now, bushes are green, aren't they? They have green leaves on them, and they're bushy. And let me see if I can make this bush burn. I bet I can't, because green leaves won't burn. Okay. Now, see, I can't make it burn, can I? Because it's green, and it won't catch fire. But this that Moses saw was a green bush, and it was burning. And it got Moses' attention, and he said, I've got to go over there and see what that is. I don't know. That's something strange. So he went over to the bush, and let's see. Moses went up to the bush to get a better look, and a voice came out of the bush, and it was God speaking to Moses. Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. And God said, Moses, take off your sandals. You are standing on holy ground. Moses did exactly what God told him. He took his sandals off. Now, sandals are just shoes. These are my ugly sandals, but sandals are just shoes that get sand in them when you walk, don't they? And a lot of the people back then wore sandals because that's just the kind of shoes they had. So Moses took off his sandals and put them there by the burning bush. And he listened to God. And God said, Moses, I've got a job for you to do. God had seen all the suffering of the Israelites, and they'd been praying that God would help them. And God heard their voice, and he said, go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go, for him not to keep them anymore. And he said, my people go with you, and I want you to take them to a land of milk and honey. And it's the land I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, God had promised a long time ago that he was going to give them a promised land, and they had all looked forward to it. So he told me, he said, you go to Egypt, and you get my people, and you take them to the promised land, and I'll be with you. Kind of scared Moses. He wasn't real sure about that. And he said, I'm not a good speaker, God, and I don't know if I can do that or not. And he said, oh, yeah, you can. I'm going to give you some help. I'm going to let your brother Aaron go with you. And when you get there, you will be able to talk to the Pharaoh. Wednesday night, when you come to class, you're going to get to be in your class on Wednesday night, and you're going to hear this story again and get to do the activities. Okay, as we get ready to retell our story, remember that Moses was in Egypt because he was raised there in the palace with the princes, but he had to leave because he killed one of the Egyptians because he was beating up friends. He was beating him up and he didn't want him to do that, so he killed him. So he ran away and he went to another land, and when he got there he became a shepherd and he got married and he started taking care of the sheep. And he was out one day taking care of his sheep and he saw a strange sight. And what was it? That's right, it was a bush and it was on fire. And what was different about that bush being on fire? It wouldn't burn up. It just kept burning and burning and burning, and it never went away like fires do. And so Moses went closer to see what it was, and all of a sudden a voice came out of the bush. And what did it say? Moses, take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground. That's right. And so Moses did, and he knew he was talking to God. Do you think Moses was afraid? Yeah, I think he probably was a little bit. I think I would be afraid if a bush started talking to me and I realized it was God's voice. God doesn't talk to us like that nowadays, does he? He talks to us through his word. But then he did, and so he told Moses that he had a job for him. And what did he want Moses to do? Yes, he wanted him to go back to Egypt and free the children of Israel. Remember, Jacob was their daddy, and God changed Jacob's name to Israel, and all of those children and all of their families that were born to Jacob were called Israelites, or Hebrews. And they were there in Egypt, and they had become slaves, and then they were trying to kill all the baby boys to get rid of some of the Israelites. But now Moses has grown up, and God says, you go back. I've heard them, and they're being mistreated. And you go back, and you get them out. And you tell Pharaoh, the Mino king, to let my people go. And Moses said, oh, I don't know if I can do that, God. That's awfully hard. You remember, I'm not a very good speaker, God. And he said, that's okay. I'll help you. I'm going to send your brother Aaron with you, and you'll be okay. You'll be all right. So that's where our story is going to end today, on the burning bush. Okay, I'm going to get the watercolors out now, and I'm going to paint a picture of the burning bush. And bushes have lots of branches, so I'm going to start with brown, and I'm just going to go up like this and make lots of branches on my bush. Remember, do not mix your colors. I'm going to make some branches on the bush, and we're going to put some leaves on this bush, and we're going to see. I'm going to wash the brown off because I'm through with brown, and I'm going to get some green. Always remember to wash your brush or you'll get muddy colors. So I'm just going to put some spots like this of green leaves on my bush, and you can do the same thing when you get a chance to do this, and maybe on Wednesday night you might get to do this if you're here. If Miss Wendy and Miss Kim want you to, then we might just have you paint a burning bush. But I'm going to put all the leaves on here. Now, what was strange about this burning bush, it didn't burn up, did it? But it was on fire, and that was God's way of getting Moses' attention. That would have gotten my attention, and it got his too. So I'm going to wash all my green off now because I've got the green leaves, and now I'm going to put some yellow because fire has yellow in it, Can you see a fire? Let's look at this fire. Does it look yellow? It does, doesn't it? It looks yellow, doesn't it? Yellow, and I see some orange and some red kind of in that fire, and even maybe a tiny bit of blue. So we're going to paint some yellow around the leaves. We're going to paint some yellow, and that's going to be fire on our bush. Okay, you can put all the yellow you want. And then I'm going to go back with some orange and some red and go close to that and get the orange and put it close to the yellow and make it look like flames. Now, does it look like it's on fire? It kind of looks like it's on fire, doesn't it? Okay, it's looking more like fire. Now let's wash the yellow off and let's get some the orange off and get some red. Okay, here's the red. Ooh, now it's really looking like it's burning, isn't it? Now I know a song about this story, and you know I'm not a very good singer, but I want you to listen to the words of the song because it tells the story real well. And it goes like this. Okay, there's our bush, and at the bottom it says, Moses, take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. Okay, there's our picture of our burning bush. Our song goes like this. God spoke to Moses from the middle of the burning bush, and he said to him, you're the one I've chosen. Go over to Egypt and free the children of Israel. And Moses did, and he did real well, because he listened to the Lord. We always have to listen to God, don't we? And Moses was a good listener. He listened good to God, and he obeyed God. He did what God told him to do, and God took care of him and went with him. Thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoyed our story. See you Wednesday night. Bye.